Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Beatles Forever. It's time for the Beatles on this date. Let us see what the Beatles were up to on this date of June 3rd. The following stories come from the Beatles Bible online. The first story is dated June 3rd, 2018. New book to explore the creation of John Lennon's Imagine album. And this happened on a Sunday, June 3rd, 2018. A new hardback book documenting the creation of John Lennon's landmark 1971 album, Imagine, is to be published on October 9th, 2018. The book is officially titled Imagine, although the front cover and spine both display the words Imagine John Yoko. The cover also states, with contributions from the people who were there. The deluxe 320-page hardcover book will be published by Grand Central Publishing and is priced at $50. A newly remixed version of the Imagine album is also thought to be due out this year, along with the reissue of the Imagine film. More information is expected soon. And here's the press release for the book. A lot has been written about the creation of the song, the album, and the film of Imagine, mainly by people who weren't there. So I'm very pleased and grateful that now, for the first time, so many of the participants have kindly given their time to give me some truth in their own words and pictures. Yoko Ono. In 1971, John Lennon and Yoko Ono conceived and recorded the critically acclaimed album Imagine at their Georgian country home, Tittenhurst Park, in Berkshire, England, and in the state-of-the-art studio they built in the grounds and at the record plant in New York. The lyrics of its title track were inspired by Yoko Ono's event scores in her 1964 book Grapefruit, and she was officially co-credited as writer in June 2017. Imagine tells the story of John and Yoko's life, work, and relationship during this intensely creative period. It transports readers to home and working environments through artfully compiled narrative film stills, Yoko's closely guarded archive photos and artifacts, and stitched together panoramas taken from outtake film footage that recreate the interiors in evocative detail. Each chapter and song is introduced with text by John and Yoko, compiled from published and unpublished sources, and complemented by comments from Yoko today. Fresh insights are provided by musicians, engineers, and staff who took part, many of whom feature on the inner sleeve's enigmatic picture wheel in which the identities are finally revealed. All the minutiae is examined, the locations, the key players, the music and lyrics, the production techniques, and the artworks, including the creative process behind the double exposure Polaroids used on the album cover. With a message as universal and pertinent today as it was when the album was released, Imagine cements John and Yoko's place in cultural history. The second story happened on June 3rd, 2002. Paul McCartney Live. Party at the Palace, Buckingham Palace, London. This happened on a Monday. Paul McCartney performed at the Party at the Palace, Buckingham Palace, London, England, June 3rd, 2002. The event was to celebrate the Golden Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth II and was held in the grounds of the palace. Paul McCartney said, "It was a new millennium the next time we were together again, and what occasion it was. Celebrating her Golden Jubilee, we got to rock out in her garden. As Her Majesty was on stage receiving applause at the end of the show, I joked, 'Well, I suppose this will be happening next year then?' To which she replied, 'Not in my garden, it won't.'" McCartney performed the song Her Majesty live for the first time, followed by Blackbird, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band reprise, The End, All You Need Is Love, Hey Jude, and I Saw Her Standing There. The third story happened on June 3rd, recording Isn't It a Pity by George Harrison. Wednesday, June 3rd, 1970, was the sixth recording session for George Harrison's third solo album, All Things Must Pass. Harrison and the album's musicians had worked on Isn't It a Pity the previous day, laying down 19 takes, including what became version 1 on the album. However, he was evidently not satisfied with the results, and a new arrangement was worked on during the session. 30 new takes were recorded at a slightly slower tempo and with organ and piano to the fore. The final take was chosen as the best and became version 2 on All Things Must Pass. Sounds like George was a perfectionist. The fourth story happened on June 3rd, 1965. John, George, Cynthia, and Patty attend Allen Ginsberg's 39th birthday party. And this happened on a Thursday. The Beatles had been invited to beat poet Allen Ginsberg's 39th birthday party by a mutual friend and Indica Gallery co-founder Barry Miles. Although few of the partygoers expected them to show, John and Cynthia Lennon, George Harrison, and Patty Boyd arrived. The party was thrown by David Larcher at his basement flat in London's Chester Square and had been organized by Barbara Rubin, Ginsberg's occasional girlfriend. Hand-drawn invitations had been sent out, one of which arrived at NIMS for the Beatles. When the two Beatles and their partners entered the flat, Ginsberg was drunk and wearing nothing but a sign on his private part saying, "Do not disturb." The new arrivals didn't stay for long. At the party, Allen got completely drunk and stripped off his clothes, putting on his baggy underpants on his head and hanging a hotel "Do Not Disturb" notice around his private parts. It was at this moment that the two Beatles arrived, John with Cynthia and George with Patty. John and George quickly checked that no photographers were present. Allen kissed John on the cheek, and John told him that he used to draw a magazine at art school called The Daily Howl, in reference to Ginsberg's poem Howl. They were friendly enough and accepted drinks, but then made quickly for the door. I asked John why he was leaving so soon. "You don't do that in front of the birds," he hissed in my ear. However, the next year, hearing that Allen was in the audience at the Beatles concert at the Portland Coliseum on their 1966 American tour, actually on August 22nd, 1965, John called out a greeting to him from the stage between numbers. Despite the encounter, Lennon and Ginsberg later became firm friends. Lennon, of course, appeared naked on the cover of Two Virgins with Yoko Ono in 1968. And a following quote came from the book in the 60s by Barry Miles. When the Two Virgins came out, I couldn't resist reminding him of his meeting with Allen and his revised attitude towards nudity. "That wasn't my problem with Allen," John snapped at me. "The trouble with Allen was that he always got up real close and touched you and shouted in your ear. Then he laughed. Allen was always ahead of his time, and by the end of the evening he was so drunk I had to wrap his arms around a lamppost in order to keep him upright while we looked for a taxi." The next story is dated June the 3rd, 1964. Ringo Starr is taken ill before the Beatles' world tour. I know we've covered Ringo's illness on the videos regarding Mal Evans, but I like to see different perspectives of it and see if there's any details we didn't hear about. So this was dated for Wednesday on the June 3rd, 1964. Ringo Starr collapsed with tonsillitis and pharyngitis during a photo session for the Saturday Evening Post newspaper in Barnes, South London. He was taken to the University College Hospital, where he was ordered to rest completely. Unfortunately for him, the Beatles were due to begin their world tour in Denmark the following day, and it was too late to cancel. George Martin suggested they draft in session musician Jimmy Nicol as a temporary replacement. And Jimmy Nicol said, "I was having a bit of a lie down after lunch when the phone rang. It was EMI asking if I could come down to the studio to rehearse with the Beatles. 2 hours after I got there, I was told to pack my bags for Denmark." And then George Harrison stated, "I was very against that. I didn't want to do the tour without Ringo. It's stupid. It's like Cliff Richard getting sick and putting someone else in his place. The Beatles were, and always will be, the four Fabs, and so three Fabs and a not-so-Fab is not the Beatles. At least that's how I felt." When I think back, it's hard to imagine how we were treated or bullied by Brian Epstein and George Martin into accepting that situation that we had to go. We should have been more forceful and said, "No, we're not doing it." It was also no help to Jimmy Nicol's life to be king for a day. And George Harrison said that from the book 50 Years Adrift by Derek Taylor. Between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m., Nicol and the three remaining Beatles ran through 6 songs from their current stage set: "I Want to Hold Your Hand," She Loves You, I Saw Her Standing There, This Boy, Can't Buy Me Love, and Long Tall Sally. The rehearsal was not recorded. After Nicola left the studios at Abbey Road, John, Paul, and George remained behind to record demos and overdubs for several songs in studio too. The next story we have is dated June the 3rd, 1964. Rehearsal, Cavern Club, Liverpool. This happened on a Sunday. The Beatles' first Abbey Road recording session was booked for June the 6th, 1962, and the group needed to prepare material. Having failed the Decca audition, they were taking no chances. On this and the following day, they rehearsed at Liverpool's Cavern Club, making sure they were tight enough to convince EMI to give them a full recording contract. And the last story is dated June the 3rd, 1963, The Beatles Live, Grenada Cinema, Woolwich, London. And this was on a Monday. The 16th date of the Beatles UK tour with Roy Orbison was a return to London with a concert at the Grenada Cinema in Woolwich. This was the group's only performance at the venue, which later became a bingo hall. The Beatles' repertoire throughout the Roy Orbison tour contained 7 songs: Some Other Guy, Do You Want to Know a Secret, Love Me Do, From Me to You, Please Please Me, I Saw Her Standing There, and Twist and Shout. So I will end the video here. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you haven't subscribed, if you could do so, it would help the channel to grow, as well as giving it a thumbs up. It's all a great help. And if you haven't clicked on the notification bell, if you could do that, it lets you know when a video is posted. And I wish everyone a good day, and tune in again soon for The Beatles Forever on this date. Thank you. Bye.